you ever stayed in a hotel so quiet it made you feel like the only person alive? This is the story of Demas, a young man traveling alone for work, and the room he should never have entered. The rain hadn't stopped since afternoon, and by the time he stepped out of the taxi, his shoes were soaked. The building was tall, grey, and lifeless. There was no music in the lobby, no one walking around, just a sleepy old man sitting behind the front desk. It was past midnight when Demas arrived at the hotel. The old man reached under the desk and pulled out a rusty old key. Room 308. He paused, as if he wanted to say something else, but instead just gave a thin smile. Sleep well. Welcome, the man said, without looking up. One night, Demas nodded. Yes, just one. The hallway, to room 308, was dim. The lights flickered every few steps, and the carpet smelled like damp cloth. He dropped his bag on the bed and walked over to the small desk by the window. When he opened one of the drawers, he found a little book, a Gessler. As he walked, Demas noticed how every door looked the same, except his, slightly scratched, with a brass number that was barely hanging on. Inside, the room was freezing. No sound came in from the street. No cars, no wind, just still, heavy silence. He flipped through it lazily, expecting meaningless scribbles, but something was odd. There were only a few names, all written neatly. All of them had checked in on the 3rd of a month. None had written a checkout date. March 3rd. Johan. April 3rd. Are you okay then? Slowly, he got up and opened it. Bye. When he turned back toward the desk, the guest log was lying open again. And this time, his name was written. Demas A. The handwriting was the same neat, perfect style as the rest. May 3rd. Reza T. June 3rd. P. Tried the phone, but no one answered at the front desk. He checked the clock. It said 6:45 a.m. It never did. The calendar on the wall still said July 3rd. The date hadn't changed. No matter how many hours passed, it was always July 3rd. No matter how tired you are, don't take the key. There was only one blank line left in the book. Maybe the log hadn't been used in a while. Maybe the others had just forgotten to fill out the rest. Still, he placed the book back in the drawer and tried to sleep. Demas froze. Today was July 3rd. He tried to shake the feeling off. It was just a weird coincidence. The air in the room felt strange, like it didn't belong. His phone glitched whenever he tried to check the time, and then he heard it. Footsteps above him. Slow, heavy, dragging footsteps. But sleep didn't come easy. He kept waking up, but he was on the top floor. There shouldn't be anyone above. He held his breath. The steps continued, growing louder until they stopped completely. Then he heard a soft knock, slow taps from inside the wardrobe. Pa! He stared at it, his body frozen. Nothing, just a dusty coat hanger and an empty space. He panicked, threw his things into his bag, and ran to the door. It wouldn't open, but the sky outside was still pitch black. Time passed. He sat by the window, waiting for the sun to rise. Room 308 is still open for guests. The front desk still gives out the key. Guests Still check in. Bye. No one ever checks out. So if you ever find yourself in an old hotel and they offer you room 308, say no. Because some rooms were never meant for the living. Have you ever received a phone call that didn't feel normal? A call that made you feel like someone was watching. Not from outside your window, but from a time that hasn't happened yet. This is what happened to Clara. She lived alone in a small apartment just outside the city. Her days were simple. Wake up, go to work at the bookstore, come home, make tea, read a chapter or two, then sleep. That was her routine. Safe, quiet, uneventful, until one night her phone rang. It was 2:13 in the morning. She woke up confused. The screen just said, unknown number, no name, no details. She hesitated, ... then answered. At first, there was only static. Then she heard a whisper. Clara. She sat up in bed. Who is this? The whisper came again. You don't have much time. Then silent. The call ended. She lay there, heart racing. Maybe it was a prank. Wrong number. Or maybe she was dreaming. But the next night at exactly 2:13 a.m., her phone rang again. Same number. Same whisper. Clara, please listen. You must leave your apartment before the 7th. It's not safe. She asked again. Who are you? Why? There was no answer. Just static. Then nothing. The calls kept coming. Every night at the same time. Always the same warning. Leave before the 7th. Clara tried blocking the number. It didn't work. She changed phones. Changed SIM cards. The calls still came. She went to the police. But they said there was no record of any incoming calls. Her phone logs were empty, like nothing ever happened. By the 5th night, she started losing sleep. Her hands trembled during the day. Every time the sun set, her chest tightened, waiting for the next call. And then came the night of the 6th. The voice sounded more desperate this time, Clara. This is my last call. They're watching me now. I won't be able to speak again. Please, don't wait. Leave now. The voice paused, then said something she still hears in her dreams. You'll understand soon. Poof! That was it. The last call. She stared at the clock. It was 2:15 a.m. Something in her. Instinct, fear, something deeper, told her to listen. She packed a small bag, grabbed her jacket, and left the apartment without even locking the door behind her. She checked into a small motel across town. It was quiet, almost too quiet. The clerk didn't ask questions when she arrived, looking pale and shaken. Clara didn't sleep that night. She just sat on the bed, staring at her phone. Bite this time, ... It didn't ring. And then, at sunrise, she turned on the news. There had been an explosion, a gas leak, in her building. It happened just after 3 a.m. The blast destroyed the upper floors. Her apartment, what used to be her home, was gone. Authorities said the leak must have started days ago. Here's the strange part. Someone had reported it 5 days before the explosion. An anonymous call, made from her own number. No one could explain how Clara still keeps that phone. She doesn't answer calls from unknown numbers anymore. But sometimes, at night, she stares at the screen and wonders ... Who was the voice? Was it her from the future, or something else trying to help her? Whatever it was, one thing is certain. If your phone rings at 2:13 in the morning, and the voice on the other end already knows your name, don't hang up. Because sometimes the future is calling, and it's calling to save you. Do you believe that some buildings remember pain, not just through old walls or creaky floors, but through something deeper, like memory burned into the air itself? This story is about Leo, a young janitor who had just gotten a new job at an old hospital on the outskirts of town. The hospital wasn't used for patients anymore. It had been shut down 10 years ago after a fire in one of the wings, but the city kept it open as a storage facility, full of unused beds, old machines, sealed records, things no one had touched in years. Leo's job was simple: clean one floor each night, take pictures as proof, and make sure nothing was leaking or broken. He took the night shift because it paid better, and because he thought nothing could happen in an empty building. The first few nights were fine. Dusty, boring, but fine. He'd sweep through hallways, mop some corners, and listen to music on his headphones. Then came Wednesday. Leo was assigned the 3rd floor, a part of the hospital that had been sealed since the fire. When he got off the elevator, the hallway felt ... different, colder. The lights overhead flickered slightly, but only on that floor. Still, he told himself, not to be dramatic. It's just an old building, right? He started cleaning room by room. Most were empty old beds, rusted sinks, broken tile. But when he reached room 304, he paused. The door was slightly open. He checked his clipboard. That room wasn't listed. In fact, none of the rooms on that wing were supposed to be open. Curious. Leo pushed the door gently. Inside was a single hospital bed, completely made. Sheets tucked in neatly. A chair sat in the corner, like someone had been visiting recently. And on the bedside table was a cup of water, fresh. He felt a chill run through him. No one was supposed to be there. Then he heard it, the sound of soft breathing. He turned around. Nothing. The hallway was empty. He walked out quickly, trying to convince himself the sound came from a vent, or maybe the building settling. But it didn't stop. As he walked down the hall, it felt like someone was following just behind him, not with footsteps, but with presence. That feeling when someone's eyes are on you. When he reached the elevator, the doors were already open. He stepped inside, hit the button for the lobby, and just before the doors closed, he swore he saw something move down the hallway. A pale figure, standing just outside room 304, watching. He didn't sleep that day. The next night, his boss called. They'd gotten a complaint. A nurse who used to work at the hospital years ago had passed by and saw lights on the 3rd floor. Said she saw Someone standing at the window of room 304, but the security camera showed no one there. Only Leo. The nurse insisted that room 304 had been closed permanently after the fire. It was where the first victim had died, a young girl who was forgotten during evacuation. She had been sedated, unable to move, trapped in her bed as the smoke filled the halls. They never found her body. Leo never went back to the 3rd floor, but sometimes when he's cleaning the lower levels, he hears the elevator moving on its own, stopping at the 3rd floor, opening, waiting, and once, just once, he heard breathing again, not from the vents, but directly behind him. So, if you ever find yourself alone in an old hospital, and you pass by room 300, don't go inside, and whatever you do, don't listen too closely, because some rooms are still occupied.